How can we use this as a vehicle of being true to our purpose of putting the customer at the center? I think that's really important. Now more than ever, especially B2B, I think we should be in the business of human connection. That's really what this is trying to do. It's trying to connect with you in a level that if I can get a laugh out of you, even a giggle, even like your eyes twist a little bit, oh my God, this is amazing.
This is Revenue Makers, the podcast by 6 Sense, investigating successful revenue strategies that pushed companies ahead. Hey, everybody. So spent some time recently doom scrolling on LinkedIn, and there's been a lot of messaging about, that we're going into 2026 pretty rapidly, and how are marketers going to stand out? Since AI is helping to push campaigns faster, you can throw something up very, very quickly. And what's going to help folks differentiate? And there's a lot of conversations certainly about creative and the ways that you're messaging and how you're breaking through the noise and reaching your customers and prospects. So I am super excited for you to hear today's conversation with Bruno Bertini, who's the CMO of 8x8. And we delve into a very specific campaign that they launched just a couple of months ago called Power of You. And I'm going to put the notes or link rather in the show notes. You can go check it out because there is some video that is remarkable as part of this campaign, which is very much about bringing their customers to the center. And they literally do it in these videos. This conversation is about the power of brand, how to be creative, and how AI at the end of the day is helping to drive new levels of creativity, which in some cases you would think, well, is AI becoming this cookie cutter, pushing out so much content that just looks like everything else? You're going to hear the exact opposite. I love the conversation. I think you're going to hear some really great ideas and actionable tips on how to think differently and really push the envelope to stand out in the market. So let's jump in. Bruno, thanks so much for joining us today. I am really super excited to talk to you about this because you guys are doing something really interesting, pretty remarkable over at 8x8. And we'll get to that in a second, but we have to sort of set things up a little bit. So a lot of people know who 8x8 is, but you're in an incredibly crowded space, I guess would probably be.
First of all, thanks for having me. I'd love to be here. I've been evolving as a CMO, how we talk about that. Is it commoditized? Is it crowded? I think it's a very mature space. I think it's a very maturing, and the speed of change in this space because of the number of players. You get crushed with the number of players. Right. You get crushed by the amount of technological change. Those are the two big ones. And then the third one, you get crushed by customers in the reality of the real world changing expectations. So that triangle makes this space very interesting.
And is it ultimately now it's customer experience? I know it's unified communications, it's contact centers. There's sort of so many different names for it. But is CX sort of the world that this is kind of in now category wise?
Yeah, so kind of the be all and all, I think. It's a good question. And without going into a messaging exercise, I think we're in which business are we in? We're a business communication company. The more that companies realize that internal communications, external communications all tie back to customer experience growth and a lot of different KPIs, that's kind of the evolution that this space is on. The more you go higher end in terms of super enterprise, they already realize that. They already have areas that are dedicated to that. As you go further down market, that's what's shaping and how it's going right now. So I think if you say CX, that's fine. I like usually to say we're a business communications SaaS company that, helps customers with customer experience. Because CX can be web, can be, it's such a vast space as well. Yeah.
That experience is more important than ever, especially since we're in this world of automating AI, which we're about to get into, but AI in a very different, impactful way.
Yes.
So there's my little tease. So 8x8 launched a campaign, The Power of You. And I guess it's just been a couple of months now.
2 months.
2 months. It's a brand campaign, putting your customers at the center of it, which makes sense, customer experience. But could you talk a little bit about what sort of drove you to point of we need to do a brand level splash type of program or campaign, and then we'll get into the really interesting stuff that came from it.
So let's rewind back. As a marketer, but also as the CMO, one of the things that I'm very proud, and one of the reasons why I took this job, is because there was an opportunity to use marketing, to realign marketing, not only as a communications and demand engine, but also as a an organization that would build differentiation beyond product. So if you think about usually SaaS, you build differentiation through product 99%. Of course, there's awareness regard to a brand, but most of the time, the job of marketing is just target, push, identify, bring, et cetera, maintain some advocacy, et cetera. So when we went back into the core strategy, because we are in a mature space, we saw that the tech is evolving so much and there's such a level of parity between technology. And again, I love our technology. I think there's a lot of common and unique features, but add AI coding to this, 2 years down the road, everyone can build anything overnight, right? So there's no differentiation in software. So the thesis there was, how can we reposition marketing to build differentiation through brand, through awareness, through experience? That was the beginning of our thesis in the rebrands that we did last November, that for us, it was not just our software. It was actually our software as a vehicle for customer success. And all companies say that, but they still lead with the tech. That's when we started to do something different. We're like, not only that's the core thesis, but we got to be authentic to that in everything we do. I like to say we reframe the way we do marketing through those lenses. So as we did the rebrand, we were basically trying to tackle awareness, because we like, how can we get more awareness? But also more than that, how can we get more regard? Meaning people look at our brand and interact with our brand and have an emotional reaction. Good or bad, both are awesome. I'll take both. But from there, we're like, how can we then keep building activations, campaigns, and sorts of things that touch back to this core thesis? The other element, which I think is very important, we would say internally, we want to make our customers heroes. We want to make our customers heroes. But you got to sometimes find the right way to do that. And the power of you internally was our way to reframing this movement of saying, we're going to put the customers at the center, but it's not just us giving them an author. It's us like recognizing the role that they play. If you think about it, and it's interesting because you guys are in the business of software as well, right? When any person buys software, to the software company, the moment that the purchase order is signed, let's say I bought 8x8, the software company is at the peak of their excitement and the customer is at the peak of their anxiety. So if you think about it, like take a step back and let's go to the human angle of purchasing, right? So they are the ones betting their careers. They're the ones that go there and do it. Like they have to digest that anxiety. And our job is to recognize the ones that do it, the ones that are betting everything. And that was the beginning of the thesis of the power of you. Now, the other angle of that was the power of you needed to be because we're not a huge brand and we're not a big advertiser. How can we do something that we can activate from multiple angles? Meaning the power of you serves a customer. It's the power of Chris. It's the power of Janelle. They're customers. But it can also serve an employee. It's the power of Bruno. It's the power of any employee. It can serve a partner. It's the power of our partner. It can even serve a shareholder if we want to use that in, like it can flex as a vehicle, meaning that it's easier for me to activate and then over time build something at that center, right? I'm giving you a lot of thought because we spent like a long time getting to just the concept and the thesis of it. And then we'll get into how we decided to activate.
I mean, again, the fact that the thoughtfulness that went into it, again, because there's so many times, and I've been involved in conversations at various companies, like we have to do something with the brand or we have to rebrand or we have to, and it's very much, well, maybe we have to send a new message, but you sort of the reframe that you mentioned, that's pretty powerful to think about and I think I may have to rip you off on the conversation about the peak of anxiety and the peak of excitement, because that is huge in terms of really understanding what's going on in buying.
I come from a background, I've been in sales, but I've been a consultant of kind of customer experience and deep behavioral science, neurolinguistics. So that's why I'm kind of a little bit of a maniac in a good way of understanding the customer. But when I say understanding, it's like, it's not the ICP 10 layers. Like, what are the emotions? When? How? Why? Because I think once you spend some time on it, there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think where we are headed, that's where the future differentiation lies, I think.
Now, I agree with you 1,000%. So let's talk about the campaign itself, because where you went with this is not something I think anybody, or at least how you executed it, is something anybody would expect. So you picked a number of customers and your goal was to make them the center. It was the power of you, power of them. Can you talk a little bit about what the execution was for that?
So when we built the thesis of the concept, at that time, I have to give credit where credit's due. I'm a big Fernando Machado fan in terms of the B2C world, like the Burger King Multi Whopper. So I take a lot of inspiration on, this more B2C campaigns. So I would go to the team and say, first is, don't approach this as if we had crazy money. Like, we're very scrappy, but because we are in a position that we are very open, we can take risks and be innovative on areas that others may say, I don't think this is ready for its prime time. And that was the beginning of what could we do to be extremely creative while gaining economies of scale in production and building a workflow of creativity in production that would allow us to still reframe. So the most important thing is whatever we would do, we would have to say, can we put the customer at the center? But the other thing is, how can I scale production of doing something that has that cool factor? The other angle there, to be very transparent, I had a choice to make. Do we spend money on paid media later to push something that's okay? Or do we spend more money on building something that cuts through the noise? It's creative, it's different, right? I've always done the latter when I was never the CMO. And I've always the day I become a CMO, we're going to do the opposite because I think there's something in that. And that was the decision to be more creative with it. One day my head of creative, Voskin, came to me and said, hey, I was talking with some of our partners and they're doing something that's kind of not ready, but there's something that I think could be fun into this. And because we're so AI internally, we're let's hear about it. That was the first that we heard about it. Now, we spent a couple months, I think we spent a quarter on it, and they've done a pilot. The first video, which was with me, was horrible, meaning the AI quality was not there, meaning you could see my face would wobble. It was not I was not on camera perfectly. So the tech was not ready. Our production was not ready, but that's where it all started.
Ultimately, the output of this was literally putting the customer at the center and putting your customers into almost heroic situations or powerful situations, right? So one of them was conducting an orchestra or somebody else scuba diving, right? So just a lot of you were testing yourself in trying to, I guess, put yourself into those types of scenarios.
Correct. We spent a lot of time on the concept, right? What does it mean from a creative perspective to put you in a position of power? Is it that you're a hero? But for example, internally, we didn't like the idea of that video game Final Fantasy hero. So we avoided that creative direction. But also to do that reframe, how could we get the honor of putting them in a position of power? One thing, but also while telling their stories. Because if you look at what we did, it's not just, oh, they're the hero. No, it's let's go to Chris' video. It starts with him as Indiana Jones excavating insides, and he's the archaeologist, and then he's balancing the anxiety of dealing with technology, and then he is driving a monster truck crushing old technology. So getting to all of those decisions is not just the vehicle of oh, it's fun, but it's also how can we do that while touching some of the themes that tie back to us, that tie back to their stories.
What did the conversation sound like when you went to these customers and said, hey, we've got this idea?
They're you guys are crazy. Get out of here. Walk away. And I'm being polite, not to say what I would say usually, but we are lucky. And I will say this on record. I am very grateful for our customers for being brave and trusting us with something so cutting edge, legally, digitally, creatively. That was one of my biggest fears, saying we're building this spaceship. Are we going to get people signing up to go on this journey with us? And the exciting part is that it was so different and the cool factor was so high that it was a complete opposite. Once we had the 2 pilots ready, they were coming to us saying, oh my God, when is this going live? Oh my God, I've seen the final. It's unbelievable. So I think the timing and the concept were so good that they were invested in the concept with us.
Now, you mentioned earlier about the decision to spend more on production and creating something that was going to cut through the noise. Given that it was so AI powered, was it lower cost to do? Or
100%. Let's think about one of those videos. You shoot a customer from a cannon, you get them with a polar bear, you shoot them on a dive, with statues, it's probably a Maldives dive or something like that. So if I wanted to do something from a creative angle, even a fraction of that, we're talking triple digits, right? So from a production cost, yeah, it's still like there's still a human VO, there's still editing, but it's all AI content. It does add up, but it's a fraction of the cost. So economies of scale for us were very important, one, but also the creative liberty of doing something fun, I think was the second.
right, but it's also not like somebody that posts on LinkedIn, I spent $213 to produce all these videos. A little more than that, probably.
No, it's more than that. It's actually more than that. Like, just think about a good VO, a good editing. There's a lot. Also, we were very thoughtful on how we write the scripts. We spent a lot of time. That's why they flow so nicely, because we spend time, money, and energy getting them to a level that the story is good. So yes, they're not your $200, but they're not your 100,000, 50,000 type of videos. The other interesting angle is, because we own the AI workflow, there's an element that the more we do them, the more scenes we have rendered. So over time, they will become way cheaper. Also, as the technology evolves, the token cost and the editing, all those things, eventually when Google launches VO4, you're going to go there and say, hey, this is my production, mirror this, $1,000.
Again, if you're listening, go watch these videos. Again, we'll put links into the show notes. So you sort of hit pay dirt with the production. You've got your customers, they're fired up. And what happened next in terms of putting them out there and then amplifying? And maybe we talk a little about some of the results you're seeing. It's still early, right? It's only been a couple months.
First, the response has been overwhelming. And I say this in a very humble way. We, of course, love it. It's our baby. And we love it even more that it's the stories, of our customers. But I did not expect that it would get such a high level of pickup, like triple digit impressions in our media, like without us architecting something crazy, right? Of course, we did plan and we had a strategy, but I didn't expect that it would kind of go like wildfire. If you think about results, there's two that I think are very important. One, which is more strategic. Even if nothing else happened, but my base of customers got excited to jump on this wagon, I would consider it a win. I now have customers emailing my customer advocacy and marketing team saying, can I get a power review video? I want to do this with you guys. Can I do this with my CX counterpart and IT? Can we do both? Can we do a partner? So just that engagement with the base, I think, is already worth it. But if you think about how the campaign is performing out there, Ad Age, Yahoo Tech, there's a lot of earned media that is like super exciting for us. The two stats that I was going to talk about beyond impressions, which I'm very grateful, and beyond our customers, which to us is the most important thing. When you look at organic engagement, we are 2.5x benchmark on organic engagement, meaning people engage because they like the content. They like the stories. It evokes, going back to our purpose, it evokes an emotion that generates awareness and regard back to the brand. Last but not least, there is a stat, like on average, people watch 30% of a video. The through rate is 32, the benchmark or something like that. When you look at our view through, we are at 97%. So 97% of the people that started watching this ad, which at the end of the day, it's a very thoughtful way, but it's still an ad, finish it. In any media form that we use it, if you go like, if this is YouTube, this is organic social, like anywhere, even in our own website for the people that go organically there, 97%. So I think it talks back to the power stealing our own concept of the content. It's the purpose behind it that just shines through what we're trying to do. In terms of next steps.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's out there now. Where are we going? What's next?
Yeah. So we started with two. The pilot was, we're going to do, Chris and Janelle are two, original heroes that are doing the moon landing. We're now going to expand it. And I want to try to get to a pace where we do, one a month, 3 a quarter, more or less on the ads, which is the shorter 27, 30 second version. We are also doing the longer stories, like your traditional B2B customer reference story, in a similar format. They're usually 2 minutes. So we're expanding to more, producing a few a quarter, expanding the engine. The interesting part now is, can we keep this exciting and fresh? Internally, we go to the team and say, okay, so monster truck, shooting people from a cannon, polar bear. What is the next one? So there's an element internally to the team that's a lot of fun to say, what are we going to do next on the next one? And then when you see the ideas popping, like we had someone on a bull and like there's a lot of crazy ideas and the quality is spectacular. So I'm excited to see the stories evolving beyond the creative angle. Internally, this is also touching the culture very deeply of the company. So you get employees really excited to say, oh my God, this feels so much like us. It's funny, but it's respectful. It's how we like to think about our customers. So it's also expanding internally to the power of you with the employees. What does it mean to them? And one of my goals this quarter, we want to do the partner one and kind of how would we do it? How do we tell the story of a partner, which is also a big responsibility, right? So those are kind of the big next steps for us.
I was reading some posts today about going into 2026. What does marketing and demand gen look like? And like brand and creative are the things that have to stand out because AI is producing campaign after campaign after campaign. But here's the distinctive brand and creative coming from AI, which I think is just shows that AI can drive creativity, not just cookie cutter.
If you think about the brief, for our brief in this case internally was, can we be cutting it? And again, we were the first ones to do it with a real customer in AI. Everyone was like, oh, this is the IKEA bedroom in AI. Great. And they're all amazing pieces of creativity. For us was almost like, how can we use this as a vehicle of being true to our purpose of putting the customer at the center? I think that's really important. The other thing that we should all ask ourselves, and I ask myself this question a lot, going back to which business are we in? How marketing supports the business that we're in. Now more than ever, especially B2B, I think we should be in the business of human connection. That's really what this is trying to do, is trying to connect with you in a level that if I can get a laugh out of you, even a giggle, even like that your eyes twist a little bit, oh my God, this is amazing.
Well, that actually is the perfect sort of segue into the last bit. I think you and I talked previously, you talked about being brave, which this is a brave move, certainly. What would you say, to marketing teams that are out there right now that are, they're thinking, we're trying to cut through the noise. We need to do something. And they probably have some great ideas, but maybe there's some hesitation or they're just not sure. And what's your advice to the team that wants to go out there, sort of break the mold and do make that human connection that you talked about? Like, how do you get over that fear is the word, maybe, or hesitation?
I have a lot of invisible mentors in the B2C space. They don't know they mentor me, but they do. It's very easy to just say, yeah, this is the framework. We're doing what we need to do. I'm hitting these people with the impressions over their awareness or unawareness cycle. And hey, I'm doing my job. I think there's an element of like, you don't need to be brave for a crazy amount of time. Like, just be brave for a few seconds to explore it. And make sure you give your team the right energy to say, I am really excited about exploring this. Because if you do that well, it's a flywheel effect that they will get excited and they will go explore with something. I would say, hey, what's our multi-whopper idea, guys? What are we doing? Like, what is our reframe? Like, show me. And I think you also have to have the understanding, going back to marketing strategy, right? If your CEO and your executives are aligned that our role is to drive human connection, drive differentiation for the business beyond technology, everything that you do differently that's associated with your core brand identity will pay fruits back to what you're trying to do. So I think that's also a way to give your teams, from an OKR perspective, creative liberty to express ourselves in a different way. I also think it's a little bit about personality. I like to take risks. Of course, I'm very mindful about the business, but I get energized by it because I'm like, oh my God, we're trying. And it may blow up back into my face. I say, guys, and it happened. It happens all the time. Again, this was a shot that fired and hey, it's amazing. But there's a lot of mistakes that we never pushed through because they failed. So I think taking the hits when you have to take the hits, but also celebrating when you do get one that is like amazing. In B2B, everyone says that, but no one likes to lose a little bit. I think there's an element of like, there's so much science in B2B, so much like precision, so much insights. that people have forgotten that sometimes art is taking a risk. And it's okay if you blow up the art at the first time. The next one will be better. You got to teach an organization to dance a little bit. And at the beginning, it's kind of, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. But hopefully over time, it becomes a little bit of more of a science in the culture, right? So be brave, have some fun with it. I think as long as it's connected back to the right OKRs and the right culture, and like, go explore it, be brave. Our space needs it. B2B needs it. Like every B2B company you open, you're going to see, oh, our platform. You say, why us? Because of our platform. I'm like, oh my God, yes.
Very templated, unfortunately. But we have a question that we've asked guests every time on this show that I wanted to point to you. What is the most ridiculous thing that you've ever been asked to do in your career? And it could be ridiculous, good or bad. And we've gotten examples of, I was able to work with NASA on a marketing campaign, to something that ended with, I think the statute of limitations is out on that one now.
Something that I think transformed me, that was very unusual, especially where I was coming from earlier in my life. I was a cast member working for Disney when I was at college, in the international college program. And no, I was not Goofy or Mickey. I didn't have the privilege of being a character, but I think the element of connecting with people and understanding the power of experiences and how they make something so memorable, and then tie that back to a business rationale, that was transformative for me. But there were so many very odd moments of being on character. So I think that's something very unusual for me. I'm very proud of that experience because I learned so much, but it gave me a lot of funny stories of costume and, stuff at Disney.
Well, I mean, you can hear in this conversation, it clearly has had that much of an impact, even when you're talking about this today. So that's a great one. So thank you, Bruno, so much. This was great. Again, we will put the campaign links in the show notes. Check them out. You will be as much impressed as I was, and as apparently much of the market was. So Bruno, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'm glad you liked it. I hope you all enjoy it. And if you have feedback, let me know. Connect me on LinkedIn. I appreciate the opportunity, Adam. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode of Revenue Makers. If you're looking for more info on how to stay on top of the latest marketing trends, check out our resources in the show notes and subscribe to the Secret Sauce monthly newsletter. You can do it at the bottom of every page at sixthsense.com. It's packed with practical tips and insights that can help you level up your marketing strategy. See you next week.